Tommy. One of my best friends still to this day. Master gun is 25 years. 6 quarters.
All right. Public hearing on local law number 1 of 2022, a local law entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law. And at this time, I'll ask Tammy to read the notice of public hearing.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that there has been duly presented to the county legislature of the county of Greene on the 20th day of April 2022, local law introductory number 1 of 2022. A local law entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law. Being enacted by the county legislature of the county of Greene as follows. Summary of proposed local law number 1 of 2022 entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law. Local law is being considered to ensure that the benefits of a community solar energy resource are available to the entire community by promoting the installation of solar energy generating equipment through a payment in lieu of taxes pilot, granting reduced cost to system developers and energy consumers, and providing a revenue stream to the entire community. Pursuant to this local law, the owner of a property or the lessee or licensee of any owner of a property on which a solar energy system is located or installed, including any improvement, reconstruction, or replacement thereof, shall enter into a pilot agreement with the county of Greene, consistent with the terms of this local law, accepting residential solar energy systems and solar energy systems that do not seek or qualify for an exemption from real property taxes pursuant to real property tax law, section 487(4). Each pilot agreement entered into shall include that the annual payment shall be for solar energy systems with a capacity greater than 50 kilowatts, 8,750 per megawatt of capacity, and that the annual payment shall escalate 2% per year, starting with the second annual payment. The annual payment referenced herein shall constitute the entire annual pilot payment due to all tax authorities in the jurisdiction and shall be apportioned pursuant to the applicable tax rates in place at the time of execution of said pilot agreement, and that the annual pilot payment shall not include any special ad valorem levies and special assessments. The full text of this proposed local law number 1 of 2022 is available for review in the office of the clerk of the Greene County Legislature, Suite 408, 411 Main Street, Catskill, New York, 414, and on the Greene County website, www.discovergreene.com. Notice is further given that the county legislature of the county of Greene will conduct a public hearing on the aforesaid local law on the 4th day of May 2022 at 6 p.m. in the legislative chambers, Greene County Office Building, 411 Main Street, 4th floor, Catskill, New York, at which time all persons interested in the subject matter thereof will be heard concerning the same.
Thanks, Tammy. I want to thank Ray Ward and Ed Kaplan for working diligently on this local law. Kind of puts everybody into a protection status, both the county and those developers that are looking to put in a solar photovoltaic system. Ray, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to clarify or explain beforehand.
No,
I really want to put you on the spot or anything.
the positions that the reason we developed the local laws still stand.
Okay. All right, so the purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments from the public regarding local law number 1 of 2022, local law entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law. If there's anyone here this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to local law number 1 of 2022, a local law entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law, I would just ask that you raise your hand to be recognized, and when you stand, please state your name for the record. And with that, we'll begin the hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to local law number 1 of 2022, a local law entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law?
Mr. Chairman, I have just
Go ahead, Mike.
a simple thing. Ray, I'm reading through this law. Who is going to oversee inspection or whatever of these solar fields to see if they are upgrading or any changes that they may be doing in this 15-year time period? Who would be in charge of that?
in our pilot agreements that we negotiate, we have language in there that gives the municipalities and the school districts, county school, the right of review in year 8 and year 15 to basically request their production levels and finance that they receive from that production and request a true up payment in the following pilot payment the following year.
Have you seen in other pilot agreements that most municipalities will do a review after 8 years?
That
Or
was,
does it kind of slip by?
it's not in the standard pilot language as provided by NYSERD. That's language that the county attorney and myself and
All right.
a couple of school attorneys and a couple of town attorneys in our initial negotiations felt that it was needed. I'm not aware of other counties or towns that have put that language into their pilot agreements. We have not, of the ones we've negotiated to signature, we have not had any pushback from the developers on that. I can't say going forward or not going to have pushback. There's been some changes in the landscape since I proposed. There was a temporary restraining order issued against the Department of Tax and Finance last Friday to that the municipal assessors are not required to use the discounted cash flow model developed by Department of Tax and Finance with a hearing date of May 27th. So essentially right now, the assessors, and part of the reason for us putting this on is the reduction in assessed value that was being predicated by this new model. That is up in the air right now. The law is, it's still the law of the land. It's state legislation to create a discounted cash flow model. Where that is going to go from here, but as far as our amount that we're requesting and to set this pilot law at is the same amount, irregardless of the assessed value that would be required under statute under property tax law 575.
If you're using the megawatts produced.
Like megawatts produce.
Question for you, Ray, because I was talking to Mike about this. Where'd the 8 year, the halfway point come from? What says we can't go 4 years, 8 years, 12 years?
Realistically, within our initial negotiations with companies, we felt that doesn't matter when we do it because we can look back the prior 7 years. The issue with it is the companies were not willing to pay for the cost of that financial review. So the cost is going to be borne by the parties that request that review. So if we put it in 4 times through the life, I mean, we could be looking at, an expense that we're going to have to basically, if you could look at reducing your pilot payment, because we're going to have to front the cost for the review.
I understand. Sure. Ray, the other question I had was transfer of ownership. Say a solar field gets sold year, and does the pilot agreement just follow new owners as part of their taking ownership?
Yes.
It'll automatically roll to them.
They have to notice us.
They have to notice you, but can they sue for each change in ownership?
It follows the project.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Ray, what are we doing with under 50 megawatt projects?
There is no pilot required.
Okay, so that's the threshold that state says for a requirement of whether or not we're going to require a pilot.
In the full local law that, wasn't read tonight, the definition of residential solar is less than 50 kilowatts. So this protects the residential solar. Your typical residential solar is around 10 kilowatts.
Well, you could still have a commercial solar that would be 20 or 25 kilowatts. Got Cypress is out there.
No,
Greenville.
no, they're 2,000 kilowatts,
2 megawatts.
not megawatts, it's kilowatt. It's, I know, we wrote the law, it's 50 kilowatts or less, so that's 0.00. But
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Dan, is there anyone this evening who wishes to be heard with regard to local law number 1 of 2022, a local law entitled Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law? No one? One once? Twice? 3 times. Declare the hearing closed. And in a minute, we'll be able to move into.
Judy.
How fitting.
All right, we call a special legislative meeting number 2 for the year 2022 order, and ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silent prayer. Thank you. If you'll follow me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All legislators are present.
Move right into one item on the agenda tonight.
Throw it through the window.
Motion to adopt local law number 1 of 2022 Greene County Solar Energy System Pilot Law.
Davis. Village.
Did you want to read that?
It's good.
All right, we'll need a roll call. Davis.
Legislator Hobart.
Yes.
Legislator Lang.
Aye.
Legislator Lennon.
Yes.
Legislator Lucas.
Yes.
Legislator Rivera.
Yes.
Legislator Martinez.
Yes.
Legislator Overblock.
Yes.
Legislator Thornton.
Yes.
Legislator True.
Yes.
Legislator Blumer.
Yes.
Legislator Buich.
Aye.
Legislator Davis.
Aye.
Legislator Handle.
Aye.
Chairman Linder.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have 10,000 ayes, 0 noes, and 0 absent.
That is carried. And since that's the only item on the agenda for this special meeting, I will adjourn the meeting at this time. We'll move into committee meetings.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Evening, everybody. Health Services Committee meeting at 6:16 this evening. First item, we're going to have Katie Oakowski with MCAT, who is here to give us a brief update on the opiate activity as requested. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, everyone. I truly did not understand the assignment. Everyone who knows me knows this is not a surprise, and I did not send my PowerPoint ahead of time, so we're gonna look at it. Sorry, maybe no, thank you. I also am going to give an overview of what mobile crisis kind of does in the history of mobile crisis. And then I think Laura Churchill is also here and Jason Friedberg to also expand on the opiate crisis that we have. So I'm Kate Nolikowski. I'm the director of the Mobile Crisis Assessment Team that's operated by the Mental Health Association. Some brief funding history for us. We were established in 2015 through OMH pass-through funding, where for 8 hours a day for each Greene and Columbia County, we cover 2 counties. We got expanded funding in 2017 through DISRUP. For those of you not familiar with DISRUP, it was basically a Medicaid redesign of funds, looking at diversion programs and prevention on how do we divert people from hospital and unnecessary interactions at the emergency department. That was a 1-year pilot that we got 5-year extensions out of, which was pretty great. That ended in June of 2021. From June to December, we got a Healing Community Study, which is through Columbia University, which came into Greene and Columbia County. They funded us for that deficit funding. And then by your generosity in Greene and Columbia County, we were funded for at least the next year for mobile crisis services. I believe it's $170,000 per each county. I'm gonna look at. Okay, so I think the big question is what does that funding kind of get you? When you look at the total budget, you look at kind of all of the services that we provide. Mobile crisis focuses on prevention before someone is in a crisis. We want to link them to services, make sure that they have the resources that they need, doctors, health insurance, whatever it is, we're going to try and get them connected to where they need to go. We have the crisis intervention. That's our primary focus. That's when someone's suicidal, homicidal, they're acting in a way that's a danger to themselves or others. Substance use is also included in the crisis intervention benefit from the state. So that's something that we have tackled since 2015. We also partner with different hospital systems to do follow-up on their patients that are discharged from either ER or inpatient psych services. That includes wellness calls to them, checking in, making sure they know when their appointments are, because we know that when people are discharged from the hospital, the chances of them going back are super high. And the chances that they're going to look at completing suicide 300 times more on average, they're at higher risk. On top of all of that, those 3 tiers of service there, we have the critical incident stress management team. A lot of people here, we've been in your communities, in your school districts, your firehouses, your law enforcement agencies, doing a special certified training of events. Sean Hotelling's in the back. He was initially part of the Upstate First Responder Support Team, where we had first responders trained in this special intervention to kind of help mitigate PTSD after a critical event. We partner with the Greene County Sheriff's Office on a couple different things. Our biggest thing with them is the Impacted Citizens Program, which is an opiate response program. They have officers that go out into the field after an overdose. And if they agree to services, those people get referred to us to do follow-up. And again, we connect them not only to substance use services, but sometimes it's healthcare, housing, all of the issues that kind of affect the people that we work with. We do a ton of training, not because we have time for it, because it's a community need. We've done Safe Talk, which is a suicide prevention training. Why Means Matter, it's another suicide prevention training. We worked with the Sheriff's Office, different first responder agencies to provide first responder mental health trainings. And we're in schools talking about services and kids that are in crisis. And then we also offer crisis case management, which is a really specific thing for high utilizers and people who use a lot of services. In the packet that went out to everyone, and I'm sorry I didn't print enough packets, you're going to see there's a list of all of the services that we kind of done in partnerships in more detail. I'm just doing kind of like a super brief overview of this. The team is a full-time team of 6 people. That's 4 a day, including myself and the assistant director. We have a mixed staff that are licensed anywhere from nurses to social workers to licensed mental health counselors. We have a psychologist on staff who's been with us through her educational career. So they're partnered with what we call a paraprofessional, which is a non-licensed professional. So there's always a team of 2. We do not go out into the field solo. But we're a pretty small little unit. I think I have 19 staff right now, 5 of which are full-time. So again, there's an attachment on this packet that has a lot of our data details. We've served 3,162 individual Greene County residents. We've been dispatched a total of 2,503 times, specifically in Greene County. Our total phone calls, we're gonna hit 100,000 this year in and out of mobile crisis. That is for both counties. We maintain a diversion rate from unnecessary hospitalization of 93%, which is pretty stellar when you think of the amount of people that we're seeing in the situations that they're in. And a diversion rate from unnecessary police intervention is 99%. So that means if we go out on a call, if police are already there, are not there, we typically don't need them to be there. There are times where we do call you because we need to be safe. And there's more data on the back, and we have a ton of data that we capture. If you're looking for specific stuff, we're happy to come and talk to you about it, including referrals from your agencies and your districts. So Mike Bulich, this slide is for you. Our estimated cost savings. I know my audience. Yeah, so our estimated cost savings.
Sean told you to tell you.
I know, I swear, on whatever, on the elephant, he did not. So when you look at all of the services that we do, we kind of look at the average cost associated with a psychiatric emergency. So these numbers, you can't read it on the bottom, but this is a behavioral health crisis best practice toolkit. That's kind of our guideline for what does a psychiatric emergency cost. The total cost, you can see it's broken down, is $2,068 for one person. So our numbers are projected. We looked at 2018 pre-COVID, or 2018 and 2019 pre-COVID, based on the number of dispatches that we went out on. So it looks, when you look at our data, like a total cost savings of $773,481 in 1 year. And that's just for our in-person diversions, which is pretty stellar. When you think of your investment of $170,000, our cost savings is pretty cool. 2019, you can also see that. And it's all generalities. I don't know exactly how much the reimbursement rate is for EMS or what the actual cost of police is, and I'm sure that's gone up since this toolkit. I can send that out to anyone who's interested in that. So next slide, also for Bulich. When you look at this, so if you look at that whole pie, that is all of the services that mobile crisis kind of has. Sorry, again, I didn't send the actual PowerPoint. When you look at all of the services, that teeny tiny little sliver that's on there, that's our billable crisis services. So we know the amount of money that we'll be able to return for the total pie of services we provide. The non-billable in-person, that's our wellness visits and our hospital discharge visits. That's the other little pie slice. And then you can see the bigger pie slice speaks to all of the different services that we provide that are not billable. Mobile crisis really tries to come in and be that consistent gap filler. If we know that this is a need in the community, we're going to try and patch it. We were established before we have great services like Greener Pathways, some of the peer programs. We kind of hodgepodge our way through and meet the needs of the community where they're at. And fix it until we can get more services in place. So, the big question is, when is mobile crisis going to start billing for our services? And I think, when you look at everything that we do, that little green line is what we're going to be able to recoup back, which is going directly back to the county. We're contracted with one insurance agency. We've got like 7 more on deck that are in process. But again, that's strictly for Medicaid reimbursement. So understanding that we serve all insurances, all people, it doesn't matter if they even live in Greene County. If they're in Greene County, we're going to see them if they need help. And that's, I think, so far. Did I nail it, Mike? Is that helpful?
It's helpful.
Okay. Some of the things that came up in the last meeting, I think, Matt, you had asked a question about when does mobile crisis not go out?
Right.
We have been, yes, I keep a mental log of these things. So part of the reason mobile crisis, we are staffed just like every other agency. We have been hit with COVID just like every other agency. There are times that we've had COVID ourselves, that we've had to go remote because we don't want to infect other people. So we have really sensitive staffing right now. Just in general, that's the nature of the world across all services. So we have had to rein it back for COVID. Also, people think that we're just going to pick people up and bring them to the hospital, which is not what we do. We're ultimately a diversion program. We want to avoid that at all costs. So sometimes people call us, schools will call us and say, we want this person to go to the hospital. Ultimately, we can't facilitate that unless they really need to go to the hospital. It's truly when someone's suicidal, homicidal, or acting in a danger to themselves or others, that even if they're psychotic and they're, not making any sense. We partner really well with the Greene County Mental Health Clinic. Jason's here. When we have to send someone involuntarily, it's a suspension of their constitutional rights. So we take that with very, very intense thought and make sure that we understand that this person may not, is not able to manage themselves outside of this, or they are a risk. So I think that there's some important stuff that if we get called and we don't go out, there's typically reasons why, and those are some of them. Law enforcement, we have a wonderful relationship with the sheriff's office. I think, local police departments are sometimes hesitant to call because grant programs, our funding comes and goes. And they don't know what services are there when they need them. That's the history of health services. And I think, that's part of it. But typically if law enforcement as a diversion program, every time they call, we come. And that's just kind of our standard operating. And a big thank you to all of you for funding us. I'm so thankful. I can't even not scream internally. And any questions?
So,
Go ahead.
No, good.
on the pie issue,
Yes,
where you're only allowed to get a certain amount that's billable,
yes.
is there a lobbying group, whether it's through mental health or someone similar across the state doing the same thing you're doing?
Yeah.
Where changes to what health insurance has to cover, is there anything coming this way, or?
Yeah, Jason's smirking back there with me because everyone is paying attention to this. The state knows that they haven't built crisis services out to be sustainable. Part of that, they just did an entire webinar for the state that was like, here's everyone that needs to be on this and learn how to bill appropriately. But they don't realize like the amount of services that you do, you physically cannot bill for all of this. Like it's not in the purview of mobile crisis. Mahaney's, which is the Mental Health Association in New York State, has a ton of lobbying that they do. Jason has been a huge advocate and fighting for us to make sure that our services are billable. The state just hasn't caught up yet. They're constantly in a state of revamping and trying to figure out what's the appropriate amount is. And they think that everyone is I hate to say this, I'm sorry, OMH, please don't strike me with lightning. But the state thinks that everyone lives in an urban area. So they're like, yeah, you're going to go to 24/7 and that's going to be great. You'll be able to bill for services 24/7. I'm like, yeah, for the 5 calls we get a year that you're going to double my budget. Like that's not, they think that people live in these like wonderful areas, that there's so many services, and that's just not the reality.
Second question, and it's just a numbers thing. You have 18 and 19, but off the top of your head, with this pandemic we went through, obviously mental health pressures increased on people being home and isolated. Do you guys have some, is it doubled what we're looking at here with your calls and your?
Yeah, so
your
weirdly, yes and no. Because of the shelter in place, it was actually like a decline in services across the board initially, where people were getting calls from people who were looking for services or just needed to talk through their anxiety or talk through what the issues are. But there wasn't anyone being seen in person. There was a lot of unknown, and then it kind of it was kind of like a holding pattern for a while, and then it exploded. So then we kind of saw, the mental health system kind of cracking because, with staffing, with the capabilities that we have, and this isn't just in Greene and Columbia County, this is across the state. We are not at capacity where we can hold these people. We as mobile crisis have a caseload. We have had kids on our caseload for, probably 2 months at this point, that we can't get into services. There's just not the right services, or they are too high acuity for where we're trying to send them. So we kind of saw a dip and then it kind of exploded. We have to screen people for COVID and make sure that, because once we get COVID, we are down a team for at least 10 days, which we have to be really careful of. Does that answer the question?
Sure. Thank you.
Katie, thank you for your dedication to this program. And, the services that you provide people in Greene and Columbia County that need this particular program. So thank you very much.
Matt, did you?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. So you had said like the dispatchers, do dispatchers send for you also, or is it just like the sheriff's office, local police departments?
Dispatch they will call us if requested by law enforcement or EMS. They do not dispatch us, no.
Okay, so local police departments know to reach out to you?
They can, yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, they know, but do they use us? I mean, I can pull the reports. I think Catskill PD is pretty solid, and Carroll PD are the two primary. I don't know what the call volumes of everyone are for mental health, but.
Okay, and then back to Mike's point about the sustainability of this, because, you know, we're funding 170,000 of it. Columbia County is funding it. But how much of that 170,000 do you think that we can set aside will be offset by revenue from building? And perhaps are there ways to change some of the mindset of the state of billing for some of these other services?
Great question. Jason can talk to the state funding piece because I don't, that's literally not even in my wheelhouse of knowledge. You know, I think that when you look at how we've kind of been built out, the revenue that we're going to recoup is never going to meet that 170,000. It's never going to happen.
Right.
Like we're the OMH funding that we have continued to get is not going away. The state has promised that that's not going to go away. So 8 hours per county is covered for that additional 6 hours. You know, so I don't have an answer as far as how the funding goes and stuff we can bill for. We've done contracts with insurance companies for the hospital discharge stuff, but even that is not a ton of money based on the money that we're saving. So I don't know how to turn the savings into dollars, or how to make the interest kind of make it different by the state standards.
How many
you know,
insurances do we bill to?
I think there's a total of 8 in our area. Look at Jason, I have no idea. I think it's 8. So it's like MVP, CDPHP, Blue Cross, Fidelis, Empire, and maybe 6. I think I'm missing one. But we're contracted with CDPHP and we're working on the contracts with other ones. But again, that's
So right now it's just one that we have contract.
correct. Yep.
We've been my staff, but mental health has been working with Katie and with MHA. I'm trying to find a way to maximize the bill, try to fulfill the contracts with regards to the services and coverage by insurance. It might surprise you that this is one of numerous initiatives by the state that are not sustainable, that are really helpful, really necessary.
We need this, and, you know, I just don't want to see the funding then run out. You know, we need something that's going to sustain this long term.
So, you know, we're working to maximize that as much as we can. Right? He said the state's funding that passes through us goes right to MHA for that, for the other portion.
May I
To continue.
Just anecdotally, we are going to receive, I think we're at 5 now opiate settlements that have very strict rules on how the money can be spent. And certainly a program like this, so we should be at the top of the envelope. So
I agree.
we're
Just under $500,000, I think, right?
yeah, but there's of the 5 settlements, they range. One's stretched out over 18 years. One's a lump sum payment. So Ed and I are working on basically a spreadsheet of how that would fall down per fiscal year. And then depending upon which settlement we're referring to, they each have different requirements of how the money can be spent. So once we kind of mumble jumble that through, we get an idea. I'm convinced that this is a perfect application in addition to Jason's operation and PH.
Is there any stipulations on that, Sean? Like the lump sum? Can you invest that to whatever, that way the principal stays, whatever it makes in interest, then it goes to these programs?
I haven't
It's always
seen that.
there?
I doubt it. That's probably makes too much sense to use it as a trust fund.
Right, and that way you're not using it till it's gone.
Yeah, but you know, lately your return on investment savings accounts. So this is not an institutional investment fund, but two of the funds are spread over 12 to 18 years, so that there is I'd like to say some kind of movie to that over time.
We do see some very successful diversion rates. 99% impressed.
I know, I'm a fan of my own program. I feel like that's like where you wear your own t-shirt at a concert. Yeah, and I think everyone's right. Like when it comes to billing like that and sustainability, that is constantly in the front of my brain. Amanda Lyons, let me tell you, she sinks her teeth into something. She doesn't let that go. But it's good because she holds us accountable for that. You know, the issue is that when you look at all of the services that we do, you know, people can say, well, there's healthcare consortium can get them connected to health insurance. There's all of these other things that you can kind of bump people to, but we're kind of that hub that does that and gets them to these other resources. You know, and that's not necessarily stuff that's billable. And if you talk to other people in other counties, when they look at mobile crisis services, we all function pretty differently. And we really try and make it a point to meet the needs of our community, you know, to meet the needs of our first responders, to meet the needs of the agencies that we partner with, because I'm going to tell you, this load is heavy. The people that we're working with, I've been in 4 provider meetings this week alone for high acuity people. One had 7 visits to the emergency department. And he landed in Greene County, was a Columbia County resident. You know, that's 7 emergency department visits that are Medicaid that we're paying for. You know, so we do all of this kind of back work, and like those provider meetings, not billable. Like the back work and the phone calls to Laura or Jason about clients, that stuff's not billable. But like we have to do it. That's stuff that we have to provide to the community. You know, and I love Greene County, and you all know that. And some of the horrendous things that have happened in Greene County that we're able to support the community, also not billable. The critical incident stress management, not billable. We can't do that. But would we ever tell a fire department, we're not going to come out and support your first responders? Absolutely not. But we don't get paid for that. So I think that's stuff to keep in mind. Like billing is absolutely an answer, but that's one segment of the stuff that we do. And that stuff's not going to be ever billable.
I can share too. I'm sorry. This year marks my 20th year of Greene County Mental Health, so I was here long before Megawatt started. And I can just tell you, once they started, it was just a game changer in terms of the type of resource that MCAT offers to the community is just remarkable. And my entire staff felt the difference when they came into town. Being able to have that and just as a resource, what they do is just remarkable. And then in more recent years, especially when we started to address more of the opioid issues as well, it's just invaluable. So it's really
Can we see in the same operations across the board from police departments? So the town, the village police departments, the sheriff's department, the state police, are they all calling you for the same types of things, or are some of these agencies not so much?
No, my camera, so I have to be.
That's okay, because I'm the one asking.
So the sheriff's office calls us by far the most. State police are second after that. You know, the sheriff's office, if there's even a question, they're like, hey, can you guys come out and take a look at this? Like they are really, and it's not just crisis calls. It's
I'm
like
trying to figure out how we do the other 1%.
I don't have an answer. I would love to say that this is the magic ticket. You know, I think part of it is we don't go anywhere that we're not called. So like we don't have a scanner in our office. For those of you that think that we do not. You know, it ultimately comes up to them calling us and trying to divert people. You know, in Columbia County, the bigger issue is that the hospital is right there. So it's easier for them to take them directly to the hospital than wait for us to kind of get there and assess what's going on. You know, Greene County, they don't do that as quickly. You know, Catskill PD does call us a lot too. So I think that there are barriers, but it's almost stigma, like we're not going to deal with this, or mental health isn't a thing. So it's like changing the whole system to kind of like, yeah, no, let's do this. And then EMS, as you look at that, EMS are bound by HIPAA, so it's different there because there's no information sharing really unless the person consents, right, Sean? Yeah, they have to consent to want a referral to mobile crisis, so they can't really just call us for that.
So rather than calling you, they would have to transport to the hospital first.
If they didn't consent, yeah. Yeah.
What's the average response time?
Well, I mean, the mountaintop is the mountaintop. So there's 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, depending on where. But, you know, we're typically, the minute we get the call, unless we're on scene somewhere else, we dispatch immediately. So I'm going to say about 30 minutes on average between the two counties. We're pretty quick. But by OMA standards, we have 3 hours to respond. That never happens. That's happened once in the history of mobile crisis. And I happened to be on that call, and we were in New Lebanon in Columbia County and had to book it to Lexington. And that was a long drive in the car, but that's been our longest response time.
And Katie, do you do trainings annually for like police departments and schools and things like that?
Yeah, so we work with the Sheriff's Office the most. We also work with Ulster County Sheriff's Office for training. We worked with Greene County EMS for some like resiliency and wellness training. So wherever we go, we kind of meet the needs. But I wouldn't say, besides the Sheriff's Office, it's not a standard request because
So
there's
do
no
you do
mandates.
trainings for Ulster County? Is that what you just said? They train you.
Both.
Oh, both.
We share training
I was
resources
gonna
because
say,
they're
oh, you
pretty.
could start billing Ulster County.
No, they train us and we
Training
train
them.
them. We
Okay.
kind of code to actually share costs, isn't as one of them, where we kind of share costs. But yes.
Well, I mean, Katie, Jason, and Jason too, and you want a sales pitch for
You know,
6 or 7 insurance companies.
they're contracted. They by law have to do it. So we're working on it. It's literally just a contracts issue.
I mean,
It's
just
coming. Yeah, no.
the savings they would enjoy.
Yeah.
By diversion, as opposed to having to pay for someone being in a hospital or a special situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, they have to contract by law. It's not a question. The issue is that it's just Medicaid. Private insurances are like a whole separate beast. And also when you get into that too, you know, imagine having the worst moment of your life and then getting a bill and having a copay and like looking at some of this stuff. So like while we look at billing, also our healthcare system is broken. You know, so as we look at some of this, like I could not imagine being on the worst day where you have private insurance, you're asking you now to go to the hospital, and now you have this huge bill because the crisis services that are contracted for you. So insurance is a double-edged sword. Yes, it's sustainable, but like at what cost for the people, you know? I don't know if anyone else has had fights with their insurance recently and they're real passionate about it.
You really
Can't
are
actually be
doing, you really are doing great work. And I think that it's important for all of us to hear it, but also for us to get it out to our constituents. Thank you for coming to present.
And if anyone has questions or wants us to present in your local jurisdictions, you can steal me and I'm happy to do this for your local groups too.
Thank you.
Send you our one.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, did you have any updates for him to get to?
I don't know if you're interested in COVID, or it's not interesting anymore.
Never going away.
Would you like me to give you the current numbers?
Yeah, I have a question on that because I noticed, there have been deaths in the community lately.
Yes.
And when reading the article, they're 90, 80, 70s comorbidities. And I did see Sean's comments, which is something I've been saying a lot. Are these actually individuals who are dying with COVID, or is it from COVID, which is that one little word makes a huge difference. And I'm not sure just what are the real facts. Do we have the real facts on that?
So the state has really gone around and around on this, but it is ultimately the person who signs the death certificate and puts the codes on what the initial cause of death is, but there's oftentimes COVID accelerates it. So somebody can have congestive heart failure, but then they get COVID and they die. Their body can only tolerate so much illness at once, and so it can speed up or enhance the speed at which they die. So I think that's where this comes into it, is that they were not a young and healthy person, but if they hadn't gotten COVID this day or this month, they might have lived another month or 2 or 3. So it's just so hard to tease out. And ultimately, it's the physician signing the death certificate that makes that decision.
I have a question too. It's come up in the past, and I don't know how true it is. I'm hoping maybe you can say something. Is there any truth that when the certificate is signed that they die from COVID, that there are extra monies that come into the facility where they were?
I have never heard that.
Okay.
I have not heard that. I know that our.
I heard that a lot in the past couple of years, and I just wasn't sure if that is a fact. Is it, is it
Where
just?
did you hear that from? Because I could try to look into it.
It's been in multiple news reports.
Right,
over
that's
the
why I'm
years.
questioning it. Is there something behind that?
I mean, ultimately, if a
hospitals or
person
whatever.
has COVID and they die, does it matter? I mean, I'm just saying this because we all have had family, friends, et cetera. They've had COVID, they've died. Maybe they had cancer, maybe they had other things, but they died and COVID contributed. So if it was COVID and the facility are trying the best they can to manage COVID and they get extra money for that, I don't see a problem with that. They're doing the best they can to sustain it. This has been extremely difficult for them. And this past month, they've had 3 of the area facilities have been managing COVID. We've had 30 cases in the past month that have been in long-term care facilities. So, there's been, and so you're asking them to work harder, wear more PPE, deal with more issues. So if there is some reimbursement that they get, I mean, I philosophically don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I've not heard of that and no one has given me that information.
Where it actually came from was that people were trying to downplay that there was even COVID out there. So they were looking for reasons to say, well, the only reason people are putting it down as a COVID death is because they're trying to prove that there's COVID there. That's, there's 2 sides to every fence, and that's, people were trying to say there's no such thing as COVID, and there are people, that's where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, what Patty's saying is just that the federal government had funds available for hospitals and stuff for COVID care. And, the question can be asked, and we can certainly find out if the monies that federal government was given to these hospitals was because of COVID cases or COVID deaths. I think that would be easy to find out, because then you'd have to question whether or not, it's a small dollar amount or a large dollar amount. Really, that's not the role of a hospital, is to give care and life-saving care, not to worry about dollars and cents and where it's going to enrich itself in some capacity. So I can only speak that our sales tax had a certain amount taken out of it to pay for hospitals that were struggling, and I didn't hear of any hospitals struggling.
They didn't, and the state never distributed the money they took.
They're still
Right.
sitting on the money.
So
They put half of it in the general fund.
call me suspect. Well, so be it.
So I'll just add, I'm on Congressman Delgado's Health Advisory Committee, and that has representatives from Global Scale Health Systems, Westchester Medical Health Systems, people that are their COOs and the people who are doing this. And one of the things, and I'm not an expert in this, so please don't hold me on it 100%, but one of the things that they talked about was the COVID relief funds that they did get from state and federal monies did help them, because elective surgeries were essentially null and void, and that's primarily where they make their money. So the COVID money and the hazard money that went to them did actually help them financially and keep their lights on. Kelly Mahoney from Westchester Medical, that was a direct quote from her that helped us keep our lights on. Now they're struggling with staffing issues because a lot of nurses have left and gone to travel jobs, which pay upwards of 3 times the amount. So now they're still struggling financially because they have units that are closed because they just don't have staff. This is, something that's local to Albany Medical Center. I know that that's happening there. So the money that we think is not going, I know that there was money that was released. Where that came from, I don't know. But they have all, been very thankful that they did get that COVID hazard or the relief money to help them get along. Ellenville Regional is one, they run at a 1% profit margin. So they already run at a really fine line. And when you take out the money makers of their elective surgeries, they lose that. And they just don't have any income at that point. I do know from being on those committee meetings that that's where some of the money, went and how it did help the hospital systems.
Yeah, that was federal, not $1 of the money that the state rated from the county sales tax was ever given out, none of it.
250 million.
That's not divided by 62. Point.
No, the city had much more of a contribution.
The resolutions. First resolution, authorizing agreement with Greene County EMS Council Inc. for EMT training.
Hobart.
Hobart, Handle. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Authorizing agreement, Greene County Mental Health Center with Carroll Durham Central School District.
Lennon.
True. One and true, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Authorizing agreement, Greene County Mental Health Center with Coxsackie Athens Central School District.
Hobart.
Hobart Bloomer, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Authorizing agreement, Greene County Mental Health Center with Hunter Tannersville Central School District.
Davis.
Legg and Davis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Legg.
Legg is not on the committee.
Mr. Leggett, not on that committee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, Daryl, Davis.
Sleep about.
Authorizing
Wednesday night.
agreement, Greene County Mental Health with Wyndham Ashland Jewett Central School District.
Davis.
Davis,
Hobart.
Hobart, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Approving related service provider contract preschool special education program.
Hobart.
Hobart and Lucas. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Establish capital project number 125 opioid settlement.
Hobart.
Hobart, Handle. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Is there anything else coming for Health Services Committee this evening?
Motion to close.
Norman and Hobart, we are closed.
Nice
Thank you,
job.
everybody.
Even lose control over there. Very, very good.
All set already? Okay, we'll call county resources to order at 6:55. We have one proposed action item, but before we get to that, we have a couple women here from the Thomas Cole House to give us a brief update. We have Linda Gentalen and Jessica Goon. So if you'd like to head up to the podium. Tell us what we're doing.
Jessica's gonna start us off, and I'm gonna give you some flyers.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Hello, everyone.
Great.
So I just wanted to give you an update on our exhibition that just opened this past Saturday. Pick up a little bit. Oh, sorry, I'm a very quiet person. So our latest exhibition, and the one that'll be open all season, is Thomas Cole Studio Memory and Inspiration, curated by Franklin Kelly, the senior curator at the National Gallery. This is an exhibition that he has been kind of thinking about and working on for at least 30 years, and is very excited about, and we're very excited to have it at the Thomas Cole site. It is a collection of Thomas Cole paintings that were in the studio or on the property at the time of his death. And it's the largest collection of Thomas Cole paintings that the organization has had on display at one time. So it's a very exciting exhibition. It's full of pieces that are both finished and unfinished. So through that, you can see a little bit into his process and kind of what he was thinking about at the time of his death and the direction that his career was going, as well as the inspiration that his work had on art in America. So we want to invite you all to come see the exhibition. It is truly a once in a lifetime exhibition. And we would love to see you all there.
Jessica, is the Thomas Cole House open daily now through October?
We are open May and June from Thursday through Sunday. And then in June, we open up Thursday through Tuesday.
Okay. Hey, Matt, did you make it there?
I did not on Saturday. Saturday was the opening.
Yeah, so we
Right.
had an opening reception on Saturday.
Well, was it well attended? A lot of
It was, yeah, we had a really good crowd. A lot
Nice
of really
day.
good pizza. It was a beautiful weekend.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
So I want to welcome Linda to talk to you about an event we have coming up.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the time you're giving us. And Jessica stated where we are, which is our largest exhibit ever, full of Thomas Cole paintings, which my husband says is not important. He tells me that what I need to tell you is that this exhibit is going to draw people. And it is. We are expecting, COVID forgiving us, record numbers of people this year, which was one of the purposes behind my little message, because 21 years ago, in 2001, the house opened with all volunteers doing it. Volunteers rehabbed the house, got the donations to do the work. And when it opened, there was an army of volunteers. One of the generals of that army was Sybil Tannenbaum, whom some of you may recognize that name. She was married to Richard Tannenbaum. And I always said to Sybil, someday we're gonna put your name on a tree because of all the time and all the energy she devoted to the house and to its success. And one of her reasons for doing that was in order to have a place in Greene County for people to come to increase our tourism base. And that is showing fruit now. So suitably, we planted a cherry tree and we are putting Sybil's name on it. And we'd like to invite you to that dedication on May 22nd. We have a free community open house late that afternoon. So you can come in, anyone can come in and see that beautiful exhibit that Jessica told you about and view the main house as well. At 4 o'clock, we kick off with a dedication of the tree. And we have some little events planned. Rabbi Zoe from the temple next door, who has been the very best neighbor anyone could ever imagine, is going to bless our efforts. And Betsy Jacks, our director, will speak to Sybil's amazing accomplishments and her gifts to us as a site and as a community. And then Jimmy Bulich and Robin Smith are going to hang the necklace on the cherry tree, which says, "In celebration of Sybil Tannenbaum." So I hope you can come and join us. It's a happy event. Sybil's sons tell me she will be there. So it's going to be a good day, I think, if the weather cooperates with us. And in any case, if you don't make it to that, do let everyone know about this fabulous Thomas Cole exhibit that we have this year. It's what I always envisioned being there, and this year it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have this one proposed action item. It's reappointing members to the Columbia Green Workforce Development Board. I need a motion on this. Overbaugh, seconded. True. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So carried. We have nothing else coming before county resources unless someone has something that they might want to bring up.
Budget meeting with the ballot is next Monday, I believe.
Monday, 4 PM at the caucus room, I believe, right? At 4 PM. So if we can make it, people can make it before our regular committee meetings. No, we don't have committee meetings. Monday, we do, yes.
Motion to close.
I'll second.
Lennon and Thornton, we are closed.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee order at 7:02 PM. We have 4 proposed action items, and it's all on your laptop or handout. But tonight we have with us Director Farrell from Emergency Services and the 911 Center, also along with Randy Omerod. So John? Charlie?
Yeah, there he is.
Good evening, everyone. First, I just want to give you the numbers for this past month. EMS 536, fire 167, police 1189, other calls 642 for a total of 2534. 911 admin and admin emergency calls was 4,080. Rollover from the sheriff's office line was 290. Social service, 47 calls. Mental health, 16. Public health, 6. And under mutual aid fire, there was 8 calls. And for EMS move-ups within the county was 26. Today we completed the regional hazmat grant at Columbia and Greene. Is working today. We met and got that sent out. And also, we also sent this week the technical rescue team that we worked with Ulster County and of course Greene. 2 weeks ago, we had a battalion meeting. We had 41 in attendance, line officers, good attendance. And I just want to thank Matt for coming that evening to attend. Also, the Columbia Memorial Hospital is going to start doing firefighter physicals. Again, starting May 12th. For Greene County, it's going to be conducted at the Catskill Rapid Care. That's at the 10 Grandview Avenue. And the program that they're opening up is on Thursdays and Saturdays. They will have 4 appointments each day. And first come, first serve. I just sent that out to the fire service so they're aware. And one thing I'd just like to say, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would greatly appreciate if somewhere in the very near future that we could have a special public safety meeting at 25 Volunteer Drive. The reason for that is I had both Charlie and Harry there on separate days, and Neil Culliver, Randy, and myself, we kind of gave them a little short tour of what we've been doing for the last year and a half. And I think all of you, for the amount of money that we're spending and keeping that 911 center at the high level, I think we all need to invest a good hour to let us show you what we're capable of doing right now. So whatever you can do, fit that in, we greatly appreciate it. Also, just so you know, it's a little short notice, I sent it to Sean. Carroll's having a convention, or I should say the county association's having their parade out in Carroll. And they're going to be using our lower ground floor for their annual memorial service and judging and so forth during that period of time. But other than that, things are going well. Randy, want to fill them in over tonight's to us, it's excitement. I'm on one call.
Actually, just before I was getting ready to leave today, at about 4:15 PM, they took a call, dispatch took a call of a lost hiker on the escarpment trail on the 23A side, about Catterskill Falls area. Dispatcher was able to use software called Rapid SOS to walk the lost hiker out before the forest rangers even arrived. Dispatcher was able to assist a lost hiker because of this Rapid SOS software, actually tracked this lost hiker from the trail they were on and walked them all the way out to North Lake Road to meet the trooper that was just getting out of his car when we hung up the phone on with him. We have all, within Greene County Emergency Services in our CAD system, we also have all the New York State DEC trails uploaded to our mapping system in the CAD. And coupled with the Rapid SOS, made it possible to walk this hiker out to the parking lot, right to the trooper, as I said before. If we did not have the software or the maps uploaded, then the lost hiker would have had to wait potentially hours for DEC to reach them. Rapid SOS is a free solution that provides critical embedded data to the 911 center. The software is connected to our 911 phone system and mapping and a CAD system. So success story. Doesn't always work out to the best of our ability, but I just walking out and she was just hanging up on the phone, and the dispatcher that did this is still in training. So kudos to her.
Good stuff.
Chairman Holbart, sir, I second what Mr. John Farrell had said, that we ought to try to logistics to work out a meeting up there, because it's amazing what they've done up there. And I know a lot of us, the majority of us, don't know to see it. It's just breathtaking.
So everybody let me know what day works best for
Well,
them.
we're going to have to work out the logistics as far as getting the computers up there and the recordings. It's going to be a regular meeting.
Well, rather than having a committee meeting, have a site visit.
Special.
Yeah, site visit. Oh, I thought he wanted a committee meeting.
Oh, you just want to visit.
The main thing is to get all 14 there.
All right. Well, we should all do.
Saturday afternoon or.
We should all make sure we go as a group. Yeah.
Special public safety meeting with pizza.
Pizza. But again, let's not.
Ice cream, one or the other.
All right, Bruce, I'll settle for that.
Why do you have to have one together? Why can't you have both?
But anyway, it's really amazing what they've done.
You can see where the money goes, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
It's,
And just what he said here about that tracking that lost hiker today. That's all the improvements that was made up there. What, 3-4 years ago, you wouldn't be doing that.
3 or 4 years ago, I would have been having maps out on tables.
Right. It's amazing.
And 4 rangers and volunteer firemen and EMS who break into the woods.
Randy, was that partially affected by virtue of the Twilight Towers capacity, or where was
The cell phone signal strength probably was enhanced by the Twilight Tower. So, and Legislator Legg, last month you had asked about the Verizon line that was down. The next day I made contact with Verizon with the help of and they had put a temporary fix in, and they have a construction crew and an engineer crew coming in to look to revamp that line so it's not.
I see they marked it on the road. They spray painted 2 locations. They really have a lot of work to do on that line.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I went
Pay
up.
attention to look at it.
I went up Saturday and looked at it, went up the mountain. And just outside of Belleville, that line goes right through the middle of that forest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no opening, there's no, right shoot or anything. It's just, I'm surprised Verizon would let that go like that, frankly.
There's trees hanging on that line every 100 feet.
They really need to step up and get crews in there and clean that line up.
I had made contact with them and
How's that?
they were working on it.
How's that?
Yeah, I think
Sean, hotel, you have anything under EMS?
Is gonna jack up your.
Oh, I don't care. You want to see it? Did you see it?
Tested with a lot of EMS movement, units covering, as other areas get busy, it seems to be working well through the 911 center. So we're just doing some tweaks with that and get it more standardized. With the dispatchers being short, they're still handling it very well.
See it showing on the training for, that the county's going to, help pay for. Have you seen, heard scuttlebutt, like, as a positive, that people are, hey, I can do this, or?
The word really hasn't been pushed out yet, just because it seems like they were waiting just to, secure the measures of funding potential for that before it starts getting advertised out for the classes. I'm hoping it's gonna be a really positive thing.
Good. All right. Thank
Any
you.
questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, John.
The next person we have is Sheriff Pete Kosminski. And he's got with him Adam Brainerd, the undersheriff. In case you guys have any questions for some of the proposed items that are on there. I'm sure there'll be a few.
Randy can't leave.
Before I get started, Katie stepped out, of course, but she does a great job for all of us. Not only does she come out and divert those people that we see that don't necessarily need to get arrested and taken to the hospital, but she helps the firemen out. She helps our responders out. If they see something crazy, they come. She participates in our citizen program, in our hero program. It's all wellness programs that we're required by accreditation to do. So she's very helpful to us. Anyway, for the month, we had 161 civil attempts, 90 civil papers served, issued 190 traffic tickets, investigated 15 traffic accidents, made 35 arrests and 5 DWI arrests. We handled 423 calls for service, made 302 traffic stops. And let's see, on April 1st, the starting jail population was 33. As of April 30th, it was 32. The high for the month being 33. Corrections officers did 37 transports, traveling 1,970. Now you come back quick, right?
Sorry.
He gave you a nice compliment. And you missed it, so he's not saying it again.
So where was I? Corrections officers did 37 transports, traveling 1,979 miles, totaling 74 hours, moving 40 inmates. We have no state-ready inmates in our custody. We do have 20 kids signed up for the Sheriff's Institute summer camp. We can put a few more in if anybody knows of any underprivileged children that would like to attend, as they will have a few open spots.
What ages?
It's 9 to 12. The new K-9 Mac has been very active at the Carroll Durham High School, or I'm sorry, Carroll Durham Elementary School. With he's got 43 documented incidents already where he's interacted with children in school. We did host a drug take-back day last month, and we took in 145 pounds of medication. And Harry was up there, thank you. We did also handle a tragic accident in the town of Wyndham, which resulted in the death of a 13-year-old girl. And along with that, Katie and her team came up and helped out the family, and as well as the fire department responders and EMS and police as well. So I got you in there. All right. We are investigating a random shooting that occurred at a business on 9W Coxsackie, but we have developed a suspect from Albany County that was also involved in several shootings of businesses in Albany County. On that same night, he also did one in Saratoga County that night. So he should have charges against him shortly. And we also had 3 corrections officers graduate from the Basic Corrections Academy in Rensselaer County this month. And that's all I have, except for the anybody has any questions on it.
Yeah, if anybody, thank you, Pete. If anybody has any questions, I know we had discussion and talked about the body cams and the in-car cameras.
Yep.
How, over the last few years, how many pistol permits do you process, and how much has that gone up over the last 2-3 years?
I would have to look at that to get the exact number, but the volume is drastically increased. We were giving out, at one point in time, I think we gave out 300 applications 1 month, and we didn't get them all back because people don't fill them out. Some people in here probably have some sitting in there. But yeah, it's kind of quite a bit. We have appointments just about every day, all day. We did hire another person to help to assist with the volume.
The fee did go up like 2 years ago, though, right? We did that for the processing of
Yeah.
the IDs and everything, so.
Yeah, there's a huge increase in traffic. I can get the numbers for next month for you.
I'm just curious to see how much it went up, because I know it's. the
Yeah,
volume has been going up.
it went up.
We still charge for applications? You get $2 an application?
Adam, do you have the numbers on that?
I don't have the fee schedule, but we still do charge.
I think we increased it recently.
$2,
$2.
$5.
And unless you get it on our app and download it yourself, then we don't charge. But I can get the numbers. But definitely the huge increase in volume.
And if you're gonna get the numbers, I'd be curious to know how many of them actually go through and how many are denied.
Oh, I can tell you most all of them go through. Very few get through.
Very few get.
You know, if you're convicted of a felony, you're barred anyway. So those people don't even submit when they read the application, if they read it.
If they read it.
Otherwise, chances are you're going to get it unless you have a reason to be barred.
Thank you.
Has the sheriff's office ever done like a gun buyback in Greene County?
Not that I'm aware of.
Does that state? Is that mostly state that does it?
Mostly in cities do that.
It's usually private people that sponsor it, like the ones
Church
up in
groups.
Albany, church groups and
Pastor
stuff.
church groups.
Yeah, it's usually.
There's a church in Albany that does it every now and then.
AA would probably do that.
We could do it if we had but the funding's got to come from someplace.
I mean, I know nobody's giving up their guns here, but I'm just saying.
The guns they get, though, that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
You get old
Junk stuff.
broken,
Oh, long guns.
yes,
Yeah.
old broken long guns that aren't used in crimes anymore.
And then you gotta close it.
And the ones we want, we're not getting.
Thank you.
All right, Pete. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How many slots did you say were open at camp?
I believe there are 5. And we have ours filled, but the total camp said that they had 5 open spots. Somebody wants to apply and we get the name in soon enough.
Perfect.
Pete, I see you have Randy here, and it's just the second resolution, console and radios. Will that alleviate some of the 911 calls? I see a certain amount goes. No.
No, this is strictly for what's on the agenda here is a radio and control station at a desk so they can use the radio while they're inside the station.
Yeah, we had, for example, last month, we had 2 days where there were no patrols available from either us or the state police.
Right.
But meanwhile, there was 4 of us in that building and we had no, they were trying to call us on the phones to figure
I
out,
got you.
because we'll respond if there's no
I
patrols.
think I ended up calling you direct.
He ended up calling me on the cell phone. I had to call him on his cell phone because I was stuck.
Right.
It just.
It's a radio and what they consider a console. It's a tool to hide the radio off in the back closet and then use a console as a control tool. Basically ties all the radios together. So I will have 3 radios sitting on the desk.
Yeah, the only way I know anything's really going, other than if I'm watching the CAD itself, is I have a scanner on my window, so it's personal.
Right, okay.
Now, would that help with the, would you say 290 calls rolled over from the sheriff's office
It could
last
alleviate
month?
some-
Would
it
that
could
alleviate some of that?
Of the calls that do roll over. But the biggest thing is if Pete needs to get a hold or Adam needs to get a hold of one of the patrols, right now they have to call into the 911 center and ask us to relay the message to have the car call him. So they can just hop on the radio.
There's no radio access out of it.
Right.
Inside the building.
I think so.
Do you have to then dedicate someone specifically for this in your office, or is it
No,
basically
it's
a
gonna be,
automatic or?
it would be right in the main entrance area where we do have usually administrative sergeant and 2 civilians. Somebody will hear it.
Gotcha.
And if we need to use it, we're only 10 steps away versus,
Right.
now calling and tying up another line at the emergency center.
Now, here's a total hypothetical. Could this evolve into, say you have a dispatcher that's like 911 dedicated for law enforcement? Could this thing be revamped to house or be dedicated for something like that, that would alleviate something going to the 911 center where somebody's not trained to handle that type of?
Right, the radio is capable of having add-ons and additional radios brought into it. If we needed that, right now, the radio or the console will have the 911 calling frequency, the law response frequency, NIVAL, which is the old MRD frequency that all police agencies have for interoperability. And then they'll also have the capabilities of monitoring the fire and EMS channels and the paging channels. They wouldn't be able to talk on them because they'll have them locked out as transmit.
Right.
So there's only one point of transmission, and that'd be the 911 center using those fire, EMS, and the paging frequency. So
The reason I ask is I've talked to people in neighboring counties and I've had conversation with you where, a dispatcher is not just a dispatcher, and they have Columbia County, Albany County, they have like their own deal. But these guys are trained for not just talking to the fireman and the fire truck and, someone, and it takes a special person to be trained in that, because usually if someone's calling 911, they're not having a good time or a good day anyway.
very, very true, very true. Every county sheriff's office around us, with the exclusion of Albany County, every sheriff's office has their own dispatcher. And it takes the burden away from the 911 dispatchers to handle the 911 emergencies.
I just want to make sure that.
Columbia County, they literally sit across from each other. You have the sheriff's office dispatchers, which are civilian dispatchers, and then you have the 911 dispatchers. And the sheriff's office dispatchers handle the sheriff's office communications. They do all the traffic stops, they do all the, radio work for the corrections department that come out. Their point of communication is to that sheriff's office.
So they're trained through DCJS to get into e-justice and, I just want to make sure like this thing here, we have had conversations about this, that we can use it as a step moving forward.
Right.
Okay.
And I do have to thank John and Randy for their efforts in getting those quotes and getting the right radio people.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, moving into the proposed action items. First one, authorizing to purchase Greene County Sheriff's Office body cam and in-car video camera system.
Martinez.
Bloomer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 2, authorization to purchase Greene County Sheriff's radios and console.
Davis.
Second. What do we have?
Davis Martinez.
Davis Martinez.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 3, amending resolution number 71-22, appointing members to the Greene County Fire Advisory Board. 2022. I got Lennon. Handel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 4, appointing additional member to the Greene County Hazmat Team. Martinez, I'll second it, or Patty. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Anything else to come before Public Safety Committee? Motion to adjourn by Ms. Handel, second by Chairman Linger. We are adjourned.